from Meldrum's Monster Garage, and man, it's been just people in and out of this shop all day long. It's been hard to videotape, but I did want to touch on this car just a little bit today. Just a lot of little detail work this week. As you can see, got the 327 looking good, got all the decals on it, got the wiring harness on it. I might have already mentioned this. We did the video on the transmission. I got the boot installed today. I am starting work on the emergency brake cables. I'm waiting for the cable that goes through the frame to reattach that. And then we got the drive shaft in today. So you might want to notice how the drive shaft is striped. It might be right, it's close. I did a lot of research on this, and my colors the oranges are right on. The bluish green might be a little bit off, but it looks pretty good. And if you're looking for reference on this, it's kind of hard to find. Pretty easy to find these drive shaft colors on the 70 Chevelles because they list it right on the build sheet, or 69s. You know, whenever they had a build sheet come out, they would list what to find, and made it easy for the assembly line workers to just grab the right drive shaft for the right car, and they would color code them. And of course, you had Pontiacs and Buicks and Chevrolets coming down the assembly line, and they'd look at the build sheet and it'd say, you know, whatever, orange, pink, blue, orange, blue, and they'd know what to grab and put in the car. Now in 66, with the manual transmission, 4-speed manual transmission, and the Power Glide, they're basically the same drive shaft. This is the original drive shaft that came out of the car, and you can see it's pitted and whatnot, so it's not super restored, but hey, at least it's the original drive shaft. And I did a little research and found out that the color should be orange, blue, green on this. And just for your reference, this one went from 18 to 18 and a half. The next one's 19 and 3/4, and then 20 and a quarter to 20 and 3/4. That's the dimensions I gave my brother Rick to stripe these, and he's got a neat little fixture. And I said, hey, don't be neat with this because it went in a fixture. These things were made right here in Chevrolet Parma plant, and they used to make drive shafts there. And so this probably came right out of Cleveland, Ohio, and they had it on a balancing machine to balance it, and then they had some paint brushes that loaded up with the right color, and they just, as the thing was rotating around after balancing, they'd slow it down and then slop the paint on. So it didn't come out just perfect. So I told Rick when he was painting these things, you know, don't make it perfect. So you can see it's just, and that's the way I think it should be. Now, it could be a little wider, it could be a little narrower, depending on how they pushed on the paintbrush. There's no rhyme or reason to this. So I've seen them all different ways. I think on the 70 Chevelle, we had them a little bit wider. But anyway, that's the way I did it. The way you want to do it, hey, it's up to you. But this frame's looking good. We are getting ready to take this to the Cleveland Piston Power Show. So it's just about all buttoned up and ready to go. Aside from that emergency brake cable, this is the way it will transition over to the Piston Power Show and be part of the Northern Ohio Chevelle Club display. I'd love to get more of the front end on here, you know, like headlights and whatnot. Got all the wiring harness ready to go for this, but I don't think Paul's going to get that to us. Paul's across the street right now, and I'm not sure what they're working on, but yeah, at least we got this thing ready to roll, and it should look good. And I'd be happy to talk to you if you want to come by the Piston Power Show at the end of the month. You know, I'd love to talk to you and get your thoughts on this car and other projects that we're working on. So, yeah, and like I said, I don't know if I finished up the video on this, but I did go ahead and I've got this, the correct Window felts installed right here. So we're all set to go, and this isn't flapping around like it would. We had Paul over here do a little touch up there. We got some checking on here. This whole panel might have to get sanded down and repainted. And then we got some things going on up here that would cause it to get repainted. We gotta get this door fitting better, and I don't know why I'm futzing with this thing. This is just a driver. This is not going to be a restored car. So anyway, I'm rambling. I got one more thing to talk to you guys about. All right, one of the fun things I do also, aside from working out here with Mike and his cars, I get a chance to work at the coin shop with my son, Carrot Coin, a couple days a week. And we have some wonderful customers that come in there. And shout out to Walt. Walt is in there a couple times a week. And I know Walt watches my videos. He's a veteran. Thank him for his service all the time. And he really enjoys these videos. So, shout out to Walt. Good to see you every week. We had another veteran come in. Rick Adler came in this week, and we found out his story. And now I know Rick's story about being a veteran. We're going to try to get Rick and Walt to meet each other. Both Vietnam veterans, and they may have things to commiserate with. I mean, I have the utmost respect for veterans. I know I've probably spoken about this before. My dad was a World War II veteran, and every single one of my uncles were part of the war effort during World War II. My dad traveling all through Europe in the Army, and then on my mom's side, I had a couple uncles that were in the Navy, and I got cousins that were in service too. Fortunately, my brothers and myself never had to go to war. The closest I got to military was being in ROTC in the high school. I had some thoughts about going into the Air Force, but then decided against it and went on to become a mechanical engineer and ended up working on a lot of aircraft parts. So I always stayed pretty close to aircraft in the military. And like I say, utmost respect for those guys. And I want to talk a little bit about Rick Adler, who we met this week. He's a combat veteran in Vietnam veteran. And he told us his story this week. Combat veteran, miraculously survived a firefight, and I have video of him talking about this, and I'm going to switch over to that in this video so he can tell his story.
My name is Rick Adler. I grew up in Olmsted Falls, graduated from there in 1966. I am also in the Olmsted Falls Hall of Fame. I was drafted in the Army of January of 1969. I didn't want to go. I was having a great life. But that's what we did back then, just like generations before us did also. I took my basic training at Fort Gordon, Georgia, and my advanced infantry training there also. I went to Vietnam on July 9th, 1969 as a combat infantryman, a grunt. I served with the AmeriCal Division, which is located in I Corps, which is in the northernmost part of South Vietnam. I was in the 11th Light Infantry Brigade, which were the Jungle Warriors. We would work free fire zones in the mountains and triple canopy jungles of Vietnam. A free fire zone is where no one is supposed to be but the enemy. There was something else that we fought every day over there also, and that was the weather. The heat and humidity were terrible. Temperatures were over 100 degrees along with that humidity. Inside those jungles, it was absolutely terrible. There was also the 3 months of monsoon season with constant rain that never stops. There would be times it would be raining so hard You couldn't see 2 feet in front of you. You were constantly wet and cold, never dry, even when it was 70 degrees. Each morning in the monsoon season, when you woke up, you'd light up a cigarette to burn the leeches off you as you slept in the mud. During my tour there, we would be out there for about 21 days doing search and destroy missions, constantly moving, setting up ambushes, and engaging with the enemy. Each night we'd set up an NDP, a night defensive position. An NDP is like a circle with usually 2 to 3 men at each position, and we would dig a hole in case there was a mortar attack or if the enemy launched a ground attack. You might get 4 or 5 hours of sleep each night. We would always say, "I'll sleep when I die." At first light in the morning, we would move out anywhere from 10 to 15 clicks. A click is about 0.6 miles. Then rest, set out a couple patrols, try to find the enemy, or look for a spot to NDP that night. This process was done day in and day out. After those 21 days or so, we'd come back up to the hill for about 3 or 4 days. When I say the hill, I'm talking about San Juan Hill. It was on 2 mountain tops, like 2 anthills, and so high that the clouds were below us. The bunkers would circle the artillery that was stationed at the very peaks. We usually didn't sleep in those bunkers because of the rats. They were bigger than small dogs. We would sleep on top of them at night. We'd roll up into our poncho liners so the rats would just run over us and not bite us. To us to be up there, it was great though, because there was no patrolling that day. We'd get a chance to ride home, maybe have a care package with food and stuff sent from our loved ones, and get our gear ready to go back out to the jungle. August 23rd, we started a search and destroy mission to find an underground NVA hospital complex with 110 of us jungle warriors. Every day and night we were under attack from the NVA, the North Vietnamese Army. On August 29th, we walked into a large horseshoe ambush. That morning we had a mortar attack and a few were dusted off. As we were getting ready to leave that NDP that morning to go to that underground hospital complex, we took in a Chu Hoi. A Chu Hoi is an NVA soldier who surrenders. As they interrogated him, he said to go to a different route than we had found that we wanted to take out on patrol the previous day. Well, military intelligence being what it is, we went the way the Chu Hoi said to go. A horseshoe ambush is like the shape of a horseshoe. Once you are inside it, they close off the back of it, so now you are completely surrounded. We were surrounded by 500 NVA, and the fight was on. It lasted for 8 hours. I was wounded 3 different times during that battle, but refused to be dusted off during that time until I couldn't move anymore. My friend, Gary Burka, saw that they were walking mortars on me to take me out, as they knew I was finally unable to move anymore. He ran and dragged me out of there, and in doing so, he was wounded by the mortar round that landed exactly where I was at. He finally got me to an area to be dusted off. He saved my life that day, and I always call him on August 29th and say, "Thanks for saving my life. I love you." I do call him other times during the year.
Vietnam veteran, and I asked him, "Hey Rick, what did you get when you came back from Vietnam?" Because I heard in his speech he couldn't wait to get back and get a cool car. And he came back, and I think he served through 69. He came back at 70. He ended up telling me he got a 70 Nova when he got back, small black car. But this guy had, he told me he had the quest for speed. Before he went in the Army, he had a 65 SS 327 Chevelle, which would have been a really cool and very, very close to this 66 327 4-speed. But he was just telling us about all the cars he's had over the years, and he's had some cool cars. He had a Cadillac V, which are those are like supercars too. But anyway, shout out to Rich, shout out to Wall, shout out to all you veterans. I love talking to you veterans when you come up to me at all these different shows and the Piston Power Show. And it was fun working on the 41 Dodge this week, and I look forward to going back. They always have those Dodges that were in the war effort at the Piston Power Show, and hopefully I can find one very similar to the Dodge 41 Dodge we had over there. So anyway, I'm rambling. We had a lot to work on this week. I was jumping around from the Chevelle to the Dodge to other projects I can't even talk about yet because we're still getting them sorted out. But anyway, Mark Meldrum, Meldrum's Monster Garage. Oh, I'm so confused this week. See ya.